Since November 2023, there has been a surge in attacks on ships traversing these crucial waters. But what's the real reason behind this disruption of global trade? Is it simply about the Israel-Palestine conflict as the attackers claim, or is there something more complex at play? We'll be revealing in this video the motivations, the impact, and the international players involved in this critical situation. The MV Ruby-Mar, a cargo ship under British ownership, met a tragic fate when it fell victim to a missile strike on February 18, 2024, leading to its sinking in the Red Sea. The perpetrator behind this attack was identified as the Houthi group from Yemen, marking one of the numerous assaults they've organized on ships navigating the region since November 2023. The Houthis exert significant control over Yemen, a nation involved in a protracted civil conflict spanning over 9 years, precipitating one of the globe's most dire humanitarian crises. The toll of this war is staggering, with over 350,000 lives lost to a combination of violence, famine, and insufficient medical resources. The Houthis justify their maritime assaults as acts of protest against Israel's military operations in Gaza, expressing solidarity with Palestinians while pressurizing stakeholders involved in the conflict. However, a deeper narrative underpins the Houthi actions, a tale of historical power dynamics in Yemen. For centuries, the densely populated regions of Yemen were predominantly governed by Zaidi Shia Muslims, known as Zadis. However, the landscape shifted dramatically in the mid-20th century. A military uprising in the 1960s saw the overthrow of Zaidi rule, marking the beginning of a turbulent era. By the 1980s, this upheaval culminated in a new order, reshaping the political and social fabric of Yemen's heartland. As conflicts persist and factions vie for control, the tragic sinking of the MV Ruby-Mar serves as a poignant symbol of the broader turmoil engulfing Yemen, a nation grappling with the weight of its past while navigating an uncertain future amidst the ravages of war. The historical narrative of Yemen's tumultuous journey from fragmented kingdoms to a unified but fractured state, and finally to the grip of conflict and humanitarian crisis, is as complex as it is tragic. It's a saga that intertwines political maneuvering, ideological clashes, external interventions, and the relentless pursuit of power. The seeds of Yemen's modern strife were sown in the mid-20th century when the northern region, once ruled by imams, transitioned into a republic known as North Yemen. The early years of this republic were marked by political instability, with successive leaders facing deposition or assassination. However, by the late 1970s, a figure emerged to shape the destiny of North Yemen: Colonel Ali Abdullah Saleh, a key player in the revolution that brought him to power. Saleh, while hailing from the Zaidi Shia community, did not align himself politically with the Zaidi cause, which marginalized them within the new political order. His presidency, which began in the late 1970s, saw him consolidate power and navigate the intricacies of Yemeni politics, often balancing between various factions to maintain control. In 1990, Saleh orchestrated the unification of North Yemen with South Yemen, forming the Republic of Yemen. This move aimed to forge a stronger, unified nation, but it also sowed the seeds of further discord. In the backdrop of this political reshuffling, a Yemeni politician named Hossein al-Houthi began a movement in the province of Sada, where many Zaidis resided. This movement, known as the Houthis, emerged as a vocal critic of Saleh's regime and opposed the growing influence of Sunni Saudi Arabia in Yemen. Initially, the Houthis were a relatively small militia, driven by ideological fervor and a desire to govern Yemen according to their vision. However, as Saleh aligned himself with the United States in its war on terror, the Houthis grew increasingly militarized and hostile towards his regime. Tensions between Saleh's forces and the Houthis came to a head in 2004, when attempts to arrest al-Houthi sparked violent clashes. These clashes marked the beginning of a prolonged conflict between Saleh's government and the Houthi rebels, characterized by sporadic violence and political upheaval. By 2014, Yemen was teetering on the brink of chaos. Saleh's rule faced mounting opposition, exacerbated by economic grievances and discontent over fuel prices. Amidst this turmoil, the Houthis seized the opportunity to assert their control, launching attacks on the presidential residence and eventually capturing parts of the capital, Sana'a. In a surprising turn of events, the Houthis formed an alliance with their former adversary Saleh in a bid to expand their governance and deepen their control over Yemen. This alliance further destabilized the country, leading to a power vacuum that Saudi Arabia sought to exploit. In March 2015, as the conflict escalated, President Hadi fled Yemen, seeking refuge in Saudi Arabia. This marked a turning point as Saudi Arabia intervened militarily, leading a coalition to launch a bombing campaign against Houthi-controlled areas and imposing a naval blockade aimed at restricting Iranian support to the Houthis. However, despite Saudi efforts, the Houthis maintained their grip on territory, exploiting the chaos to expand their influence. Their rule was characterized by brutality, with reports of human rights abuses and war crimes perpetrated against civilians. The Saudi-led intervention, while aimed at restoring stability, only exacerbated the humanitarian crisis in Yemen, plunging the country into further chaos and suffering. Both the Saudi-led coalition and the Houthi rebels stand accused of committing atrocities, including airstrikes, landmine attacks, and forced disappearances, further compounding the tragedy unfolding in Yemen. As the conflict rages on, Yemen remains trapped in a vicious cycle of violence, political instability, and humanitarian catastrophe with no end in sight to the suffering of its people. The plight of women under Houthi rule in Yemen is a distressing reality, as those who dare to advocate against their governance often find themselves imprisoned or facing severe repercussions. This oppressive regime draws chilling parallels to the Taliban's harsh treatment of women. In a tragic turn of events in 2017, amidst escalating tensions between Ali Abdullah Saleh and the Houthi insurgents over power dynamics, Saleh met his demise at the hands of the Houthis. The power struggle continued to claim countless lives, with the Saudi-led coalition eventually scaling back airstrikes and easing some of the blockade by 2020 after years of devastation and loss. In April 2022, under the auspices of the United Nations, ceasefire talks were brokered between the Houthis and Saudi Arabia, offering a glimmer of hope for peace. While initial efforts led to a temporary halt in hostilities, it was the December 2023 agreement that held promise for a more substantial easing of restrictions, particularly regarding the Sana'a airport and Hodeidah port. However, the agreement fell short in addressing the accountability for the grievous harm inflicted upon Yemenis, leaving many questions lingering regarding the country's governance and future trajectory. For many Yemenis, particularly those not aligned with the Houthi faction, there is a deep-seated concern that agreements brokered between Saudi Arabia and the Houthis prioritize Saudi security interests over the well-being and sovereignty of Yemen. The Houthis' dominance over vast swaths of Yemen's population is a grim reality, yet they lack international recognition and legitimacy beyond their own followers. Amidst the chaos and suffering, they attempt to bolster their legitimacy by framing their actions within the context of supporting Palestine, appealing to Arab and wider Muslim sentiments. This strategic maneuvering serves to deflect attention from the internal governance failures and conflicts ravaging Yemen. The Houthi-led attacks in the Red Sea have not only caused a significant disruption to international trade, but have also drawn retaliatory strikes from a coalition led by the United States and the United Kingdom, exacerbating the already dire situation for Yemeni civilians. Despite the devastation wrought by these attacks, there is evidence to suggest that the Houthi strategy is yielding results. Mass protests across Yemen in solidarity with Palestinians and expressions of support for the Houthi-led actions in the Red Sea indicate a growing acceptance and even endorsement of the leadership. However, it is crucial to recognize that these actions do not necessarily translate into tangible improvements for Yemen's catastrophic humanitarian crisis. Instead, they serve as a means for the Houthis to consolidate their grip on power, exploiting regional conflicts and leveraging popular sentiment to strengthen their hold over Yemeni territory. In the face of such complexity and suffering, the plight of Yemen remains a testament to the failures of international diplomacy and the devastating consequences of unchecked power struggles. As the international community grapples with finding viable solutions, the people of Yemen continue to endure unimaginable hardships, caught in the crossfire of geopolitical interests and ideological agendas. The road to peace and stability in Yemen remains fraught with challenges. But it is imperative that efforts continue to address the root causes of conflict and alleviate the suffering of its people. This complex situation boils down to a deadly mix of the ongoing Yemen civil war and the Israeli-Palestinian conflicts. The Houthis, a group fighting the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen, are lashing out at ships they believe are tied to Israel. It's a humanitarian crisis wrapped in a geopolitical firestorm, causing disruptions to global trade and putting seafarers at risk. But before you go, let us know in the comments below. What do you think is the best course of action to resolve this situation? Hit that like button if you found this video informative, and subscribe to the channel for more in-depth breakdowns of world events. Until next time, stay informed.